This is Secrets to Win Big, your roadmap to sustained growth. Brought to you by Arjun Sen, founder and CEO of Zen Mango, top brand growth driver, and a former Fortune 500 executive who has been called one of the most marketing intelligent minds in the business. Find him at zenmango.com. And now, here's your host, Arjun Sen.
Welcome to Secrets to Win Big with Arjun Sen. Today, I'm just talking to two lifelong friends, Sahil Rahman and Rahul Vinod, when they opened RASA, a growing Indian fast casual eatery to make Indian food more accessible and to be the bright spot in people's days. They really started something big, something amazing. Sahil and Rahul grew up in the restaurant industry and witnessed the way that food impacted our community and spread joy. RASA today has expanded to 5 locations. Founded by second-generation restaurateurs, RASA has been named a breakout brand by Nation's Restaurant News, one of the largest publications in the restaurant industry and recognized nationwide. Welcome to Secrets to Win Big, Sahil and Rahul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, first of all, I really want to go to the vision because two amazingly qualified, high-energy young professionals, you guys could have chosen to do a lot of things. What was the vision behind RASA? Why RASA?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rahul and I were both born into the restaurant industry. So our fathers are actually business partners. They moved here in the 80s. They'd actually worked together in hotels in India. They moved here in the 80s. And they started their own restaurant back in 1991. So Rahul and I were both born in 1990. So quite literally since we could walk, the two of us have been doing so inside of Indian restaurants. And as we were growing up, we witnessed such a shift in the American perception of Indian cuisine. You know, when we were kids, it was not very cool to bring Indian food to school or be Indian generally. And we were very confused that a lot of people had misperceptions or judgments or just like this general fear of our culture and cuisine. And so as we got older, we started bringing our non-Indian friends to our family restaurants. And when they'd come, what we'd find universally was that these people would leave evangelized. You know, they're coming back for birthdays as we got older, first dates, and even graduations. And what we started realizing over time was that the problem wasn't our food. It was the way that people were being introduced to it. And so we started thinking about how might we take these flavors that we've grown up loving and share them with more people.
So literally, you guys were born in the industry and born partner because your parents were already partner, which means for entrepreneurs, the families were always together. So you guys option then to work together and be outside the industry. I want to go back a little bit into, early 1990s, let's say, that period. Indian food still had not caught the imagination of everyone. So what did you see as young kids, your friends getting attracted to the food and loving the food? They are not being forced to eat this food. Like, what was it that has triggered and stayed as a vision for you based on that?
Yeah, I think for us, whenever we would tell our friends or teammates in elementary school that our fathers owned Indian restaurants, there was always a sense of curiosity or maybe even sometimes fear that, I've never tried that food before. I hear everything is spicy. I don't like curry, different things like that. And when we would bring them to our father's restaurants and they would try the food, the easiest sell would always be mango lassi first, especially for a young kid that had never experienced something with a yogurt-based drink that was cooling, refreshing, tasty, and immediately they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. When can I come back to your house and get another mango lassi? So that was one of the gateway drugs per se. And then from there, everything from chicken tikka makhni to garlic naan and some of the street snacks like papri chaat and bel puri that people were just amazed by the different textures, flavors, the different heat profiles, and just, new like experiences like in their mouth almost, especially with like something like a like bale puri that's sweet, savory, crunchy, soft, tangy, spicy, that people just hadn't experienced that flavor explosion before. And once they tried it once, they wanted to kind of keep coming back.
So what I like, as you explained, the ultimate proof is the flavor explosion, which is the good addictiveness that it is for us. Like, I've never experienced, I come to your house, experience. Now I'm elevating you guys to BFF. When can I come back? What were some barriers? You talked about the names. Were the names barriers? What were some barriers for them to embrace this in their life?
You want to take this one?
Sure, yeah. So, I think there was a number of different barriers. So I think first and foremost, a lot of the Indian restaurants that existed in the US in the early 90s were not necessarily where people lived or worked. They were in kind of some random shopping center because that's what, people who opened those restaurants could afford. They couldn't afford to be in the center of downtown DC. Now, let's say you did walk into those restaurants, they were very traditional. There's Taj Mahal paintings on the wall, there's Indian music playing in the restaurant. And if you've never traveled outside of the country or, met an Indian person or experienced that culture, it feels really foreign to step into that environment by yourself without someone to help guide you through that process. Then you get a copy of the menu and there's 100 different items on the menu. You don't speak Hindi, you don't know how to pronounce the item. So again, you're scared that you might order the wrong thing. And the public perception, Sahil always tells a story about like Indiana Jones when they eat Indian food as like monkey brains on the plate. And so I think like people's perception was, I don't want to order the wrong thing and end up with monkey brains.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I think those were some of the barriers. And at the same time, most of the Indian restaurants still today are sit-down restaurants. So it's more of a time commitment, more of a personal commitment that, okay, I'm going to go try this food and be there for a few hours. At the end of the day, not necessarily cheap as well. So what we've tried to do is take these 4 or 5 barriers and kind of flip them on their head. And we really felt that fast casual was the best way for us to make Indian food more easy to enjoy.
So I think I was planning to ask you a question, and you guys already led into that. I really wanted to understand what was the void in the marketplace, and you really placed that for me. I want to take this next question a little personal. Okay? You guys grew up in the industry. You both are very smart individuals. You had the insight. You saw what was missing, what the gap was. But not every gap in life we commit to solve for. Okay? For both of you, had amazing careers. You guys quit everything to really invest the prime time of your life. What was the reason both of you felt this is it? Like literally you guys got committed to and married to RASA. And that's a huge commitment. So what was it like the defining moment that both of you felt we are doing it?
Yeah, it's a great question. To some degree, it almost felt like a calling, right? Like I don't know that I've ever said this before, but I'm thinking back to being 15 or 16 when we first started talking about this idea, writing a plan. And for me, it was tasting Vinod Uncle's food, Chef Vinod, who's the chef with Rasa, Rahul's father. I call him Vinod Uncle. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this guy's food is so freaking good. How do we figure out how to share this with more people, right? How do we use food as this kind of, it just felt like there was such a misperception around the culture and cuisine that not only was it an opportunity, but it felt almost like a responsibility and obligation to take these flavors and this culture and this cuisine and share it with more people. So there's a lot of little moments along the way, but that was the energy underneath it of, it feels like this is wanting to happen. And it felt like, it felt like we really had the right opportunity to do so. So that's what comes up for me.
So before you add anything to it, Rahul, I just want to say that anytime I talk to entrepreneurs who are building something literally from scratch, maybe even building a category, understanding this focused commitment is so important, because brands which people put 30%, 20% of their effort doing another side job does not work. Okay. It's just like a relationship.
Totally.
Either you are in or you're not in. Okay. There's nothing 30%, 40%. And the two things that you said, Sahil, is so important is, number one, you wanted to share. But secondly, you felt responsible. Like you felt, if I don't share, the world may miss out. It was like a reverse FOMO or something like that. That to me is powerful. I don't know, Rahul, how you beat that, but what was your commitment? Hey, that's the challenge.
Yeah,
Second, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was fairly similar in the sense that, we spent our whole lives introducing people to this food and this culture, from elementary school all throughout college, and we were ambassadors of not only our father's restaurants, but we felt for Indian culture and Indian food. And, it just made so much sense to us that we already had the product, and what Sahil was saying, and we just needed more people to actually try it. And it was one of those things where, we were 24 years old when we both quit our jobs in New York City. And, we were blessed that, at the time we didn't have any other kind of obligations or responsibilities that allowed us to kind of take this leap. But we kind of came to ourselves and said, look, if we don't try this, we're always going to regret that, hey, what could have been. And, we have the product, we both are dedicated. We know this in our blood, based on our upbringing. And so let's give it a shot. And that's what kind of spurred us to, take the leap.
Well, I love that. To me, I think both of you have right here. But anybody who is investing, of course, they look at everything, the tangible, the idea, they do, category development index, brand development index, blah, 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 everything. But building on the two things, Rahul, at the beginning, Sahil, you talked about, Rahul, your thing about growing up in the industry, being in your blood, but more importantly, you guys have been literally interning as brand ambassadors for food. Maybe even before you says ma, ba, da, anything else, you said chicken makhani, okay, mango lassi. So to me, I really feel that it was not a job, because you guys grew up doing that. And that's the part where I really want to get, as we get into the promotion of or sharing of the branding of RASA. You guys have been branding Indian food from the time you grew up. Okay. So it was like the third language, like most of us learn 1-2 languages. It was the third language you guys were learning as you were growing up. So now I want to get practical about RASA. Okay. So what did you make? And again, please share only things which can be shared in public domain, which when I walk in, I can experience. What are the few things, dimensions of RASA that you guys have made sure it stands out and are non-negotiable under your leadership every day?
It's a great question.
It could be brand elements. What is it that if right now you guys are at 5, you guys should be at 20, then 100. So when I go to the 100th restaurant, what are things? I love the smile on both your face. You'll get there. But what is it that will be constant at every RASA every time?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's absolutely some core design elements, from the way we do the doors from Rajasthan, the way we get the swings in the spaces, the colors, the vibrancy, all of that energy. Absolutely. And I can spend a lot more time talking about those. But what shows up in this moment is actually around the food. It's a commitment to the authenticity and the consistency of the flavor, right? And really putting out a product that we're proud of, that feels like it honors our cultural legacy and also is maintaining that approachability for people. I think that as a lot of brands get bigger, it can be very, very easy to just do market studies and just say, oh, this sriracha is now hot, or this is that, or so on and so forth, right? And of course, you want to study trends, you want to be aware of what's happening in the market, how things are moving. But I would say the two themes that show up for me, one is really just the authenticity of the flavor and staying true to us and to kind of our families and the culture. And then the second is when I talk about all the design elements, we do have these beautiful basket swings when you walk in. We have these boxes that are shaped like the top of a mandala filled with different trinkets and colorful paintings and all this beautiful energy in the space. And underneath that, why that's been created, why we've spent so much time on all of those elements is we want to create an environment where everyone feels welcome, that it feels fresh, it feels fun, it feels light, it feels loving. And so, what shows up for me is maintaining that authenticity of the flavor and being true in that expression, and then also continuing to create spaces that really come back to building community and connection.
Oh, anything you want to add?
Yeah, just to kind of add on to what Sahil was saying, I think our goal is like not only through the food, but through the whole experience. So from the moment you see RASA on the street corner, we have our doors handmade in Delhi and shipped over, and we have these big, tall entrances. It's almost like it's not only your entrance and to RASA, but maybe it's the entrance to your first time trying Indian food and this culture and like these flavors. And how do we create an environment that also shares the same Indian hospitality that we grew up with? When you go to someone's home and you feel that warmth and that energy in the way we've designed the spaces, to even our team. And how do they greet you when you walk in? How do they help guide you throughout the entire menu and ordering experience, the same way as they serve as almost tour guides to the food and the culture?
If we connect everything that you shared with me thus far, you guys being brand ambassadors to Indian food, literally bringing a 5,000-year-old culture celebrated by billions of people, and being self-empowered ambassadors to the brand who take responsibility. I really feel it is very symbolic, as you mentioned, that people's entrance to this world has to be celebratory, monumental. And the door to me is an amazing significance that you're building around, because that's a big responsibility, comes with a big milestone. Okay? It's just like we don't celebrate every birthday the same way. The 40th birthday is special. 21st for my daughter was very special. I was not invited to her 21st birthday. I still don't know why. Turning 60, and that my birthday is taken over by my daughter. I really feel there's some of these moments are huge. And the second thing, I think, as you were talking about authenticity, I really feel, as I'm listening to you, I really feel the place has to be not just RASA. I'm listening to it is Rahul and Sahil's RASA. Which means if tomorrow I get invited to one of your homes, each one of you will have something that defines you. Like your place is an extension of you. If one of you love music, I will feel music when I'm there. If one of you are into art, I'll feel. So I really feel that authenticity is what you described, the look and feel. The second part I also loved about the food taste is, in the restaurant industry, it's about consistency, it's about trust, it's about what will not change, because that's the scary part, is when brands change, or even when I go to a grocery store, like I go to a grocery store 30% awake. I just have 5 things to, but when they change everything and make a game and I can't find milk, I feel stupid. And and that's the part where I really feel the authenticity and the trust is really huge as you're going through. So I want to now go into, sorry, go ahead.
To build on what just to build on what you're saying, that feels like at the core of what we're doing here is creating a trusted brand where people can experience and enjoy Indian food.
Love that. So now let's talk about from a customer's point of view. When a customer comes in, you guys have done all this amazing work. What is it that a customer will feel when they walk in every time?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that people feel when they first step inside, aside from the bright and kind of warm decor that we've created, is the smell. We often get people who walk in or are walking by, and the first thing that they say to us, "Man, it smells so good in here." So I think you're that's one of the first elements that you're hit with is that we have an open kitchen. We're cooking everything fresh, constantly throughout the day, and you see that cooking process as you start to walk into the restaurant. And so I think they're felt with some of those elements. And then, as you get closer to the food and to the line, you are greeted with our team, who's there to help guide you through the experience. And so, the way we have structured our model on purpose is kind of a build your own line style model. And that is intentional to take away the fear and the lack of understanding for Indian food. And so people can see all the food being cooked fresh, presented in front of them in a nice and clean manner. And then our team is there to help guide them down the line and help them choose how they want to curate and choose their own, adventure for lunch or for dinner that day.
Yeah, and I'll build on what Rahul is saying. I think when people walk in, the energy they feel is a lot of joy, right? I can't tell you how many people come up to us and say, I love coming to your restaurant, not only because the food is good, but because I just feel good when I'm in the space. It's a very vibrant, creative, playful, and inviting environment that's been built. There's good music, there's a buzz in the space, there's the aroma, all of that kind of stuff. And so in addition to that delicious flavor and the food that's there, when people walk in, there's this real curiosity of just I've never seen a place that looks like this before. And, if you're South Asian or more well-versed with Southeast Asia or India, you may relatively quickly pick up that, oh, this is an Indian restaurant. But if you're not as well-versed with those worlds, when you walk in, there's sort of this sense of awe and wonder of what is this place? It's got a familiar format to some of the other brands that I'm aware of, but I've never quite seen a restaurant that looks like this before. And so that's really the start of that journey.
So 3 things I heard was, one is starting with the aroma. And if you look at Starbucks is built 100% that way, to the point when you walk into a Starbucks, they make sure you are hit with the coffee aroma. To the point where if tomorrow you go to a Starbucks and order any of the breakfast sandwiches, they will come in a plastic pouch. They will put it in the oven inside the plastic pouch and cook it. Mm-hmm. So the coffee aroma doesn't get messed up. Okay. It's very powerful. Coffee beans absorb everything. They really keep that at the core. And the second, I think, Rahul, as you were talking about, I really felt was that whole balance of customizing my food, but you being there, by you, I mean the team being there with a smile to guide me, really keeps it on my Indian food versus I came to try your Indian food. When I go to an Indian buffet, it is your food. Some of it I don't want to try. I navigate around. But here, that blend of my Indian food versus your Indian food, I really think is beautifully how you explained. So let's elevate the conversation. In this journey, 2 individuals, a lot of pressure as you're building everything. What's the strength between both of you that makes you a great team? I really want entrepreneurs who are working as a team to build. how do you stay good friends and great entrepreneurs together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a really important question. And so there's the, kind of there's the high level answer, and then there's the much deeper answer underneath the surface.
Let's start.
Um, Sorry, which one?
Let's start with the deeper answer right away.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling as well. And so what shows up for me as you asked that question is we've invested a lot of time into our relationship. And it's something that's maybe not talked about as much amongst men, I mean, the business community, just in the world writ large, of the amount of work, conscious effort it takes to continue not only maintaining your relationship, but as you go further and further, you've got to deepen and strengthen as well. And so Rahul and I had a lot of structural advantages from the standpoint that, our families have known each other since we were born. And at the same time, there's a long-standing relationship, and that comes with its unique challenges as well. And so in addition to really frequent and open communication and kind of consistency with that communication, we've also really invested in our relationship. We've brought on coaches that we've worked with to help us figure out, hey, what are we both individually great at, and where can we lean on each other? Let's start looking at where are the moments where we feel friction and tension in our relationship. What are those patterns that emerge, and what are structures and systems we might be able to put in place to support one another, support ourselves, and also to be aware of when the other person needs support. And so, I want to be clear that it's an ongoing process, right? It's, I'm not married. Neither of us are married yet, but we both, I see this as just like a partnership in that sense, where there's amazing highs, getting to be on cool podcasts like this, being able to meet all sorts of interesting people, awards, recognition, all of that stuff. And those are kind of the tentpole moments, but it's what's happening in those moments in between, where you sort of create your foundation, your trust, and your safety as a team. And so the answer for us to this point, as I see it, has really been a lot of conscious commitment to one another, and a lot of assuming positive intent, because things always aren't perfect.
Love that. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to top that. But, I think for, echoing some similar sentiments, and that, I think in the beginning, we were creating this together. We were doing everything together, and, we soon realized that there's just too much to do for us to both be doing everything together. And, I think part of that is having the trust in the other person, and that we both have the same vision, and that, like, okay, I'm not going to have a say in this because I trust that Sahil is going to do the right choice, for us, and for this, for what our vision is. And then also accepting the fact that, look, he's making some choices, I'm making some choices, we both may make the wrong choice, and also being able to forgive each other and be like, okay, that's fine, we learned from that, and now we're gonna keep moving forward. But I think it's something that we continue to work on. I think we've had our fair share of ups and downs, like any partnership, friendship, and at times it hasn't been easy to always, you work with your best friend, who someone used to always just have a great time with, and now you have to go through some tough times, as we kind of navigated COVID, or a lull in the business, different things like that. And so, trying to navigate those while still maintaining the friendship is difficult at times. But I think what's changed now is that, looking now versus maybe 6 years ago, is that we're conscious that it is something that we have to continue to put work into. It's not just always going to just be automatic, maybe how our friendship was, prior to us getting into business together. And so I think having that conscious of okay, this is something that we're going to continue to work on, we're going to continue to evolve together, has helped us get to this point.
I've never been in a podcast conversation where the word conscious was meant and used this often. So I really feel that, both of you appreciating your friendship and investing in it and being aware and conscious is huge. But a phrase I think both of you used, I think is really, I look at big in relationships and the corporate world, is positive intent. Okay? And I see there are two dimensions of positive intent. Okay? One is from the past. Let's say three of us are working together, I screw up. But if my intent was positive, that got us here, that helps us to move forward. But then there's also, you need positive intent for taking the step forward. Okay? So to me, I really, that's the part where positive intent sometimes we only use to justify the past. Like I was just stretching when you were walking and you tripped. Okay? Instead of me saying, hey, didn't mean it. No, I need to now show the positive intent to say, hey, are you okay? Let me take you to the hospital. Like to me, that second part of positive intent to me is more important because the first part is granted. Like three of us together, like my wife and myself, I know she will never intentionally ever hurt me. And hopefully I can say the same thing about me too, okay? But at the same time, I think, but that's the past. That I think sometimes we should take that for granted because that's who we are. But the second part of positive intent to me is huge. So now I'm going to finish with a very complicated question, okay? It works great when I ask individuals.
I feel like we're in couples therapy right now. This is great.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll send you the bill, and at the end, there's a questionnaire. Each one of us gets separately. So
I can't wait for the next session. Yeah,
absolutely. So I want to put you in a hypothetical situation. Okay, you guys leave and see there's an evite that came in. The evite came from a 12-year-old Sahil and a 12-year-old Rahul, and there'll be 6 people at this gathering. There'll be a 12-year-old Sahil, 12-year Rahul, current Sahil, current Rahul, and 100-year-old Rahul and 100-year-old Sahil. Okay. So the first question is, where would you meet? And I'll decide that for you. You guys are meeting at a RASA, but you guys have to decide which city that special RASA will be open for you guys to meet in. And then I want to know what the conversation between the 3 generations. So what would be the city where that special RASA will be at?
Oh, it's a good question. You know, the 2 cities that show up for me are either right here in DC, which is obviously where we've gotten our start. We're from Maryland. We kind of grew up in this area. So I'd say either here in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, or in New York City, because in New York is where we really committed to saying, let's do this. So yeah, if I had to pick right now, I'd probably say New York, just because of the full circle nature of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I had a similar thought that it was either going to be here or New York. I mean, I think, you know, I'm just to, you know, play a little bit opposite. I would say maybe the first restaurant in DC.
True.
Because I think that's like, you know, there's so many stories just about that, like first restaurant, how we got it open, how we even were able to write a letter to convince the landlord to give us the lease, and just so many stories of our families, you know, and them helping us open that like first restaurant. So, you know, I'd say that one.
Yeah, I'm here for it. We can do the first restaurant.
I'm glad you changed. And you know, I feel the first restaurant is so important. And I'll give you an example about 2 brands. One, Papa John's. You know, going back to John's dad's bar, where John had no capacity, you know, he was not working in any capacity. He would just bring pizzas to the patrons to eat, and the patrons wanted to buy. That's the way it started. And as we started going through, you know, during my days at Papa John's, we really made that like a shrine. I don't know about others. To me, it felt great to just go and sit there to feel this is where it started. Okay. And I always saw 2 things there. One, I saw humility, that it started from nothing. You have to be lucky to move forward. And secondly, I saw opportunities and potential. Like if there's a kid, a 20-year-old kid who was just giving free pizza out, can now open 4,000 restaurants and beyond. The possibilities used to really hit me. The same is if you go
Mhm.
to Denver, at University of Denver area, there's the first reporting. But what I find is brands, as they start growing, they start not just ignoring, but taking their origin for granted. Okay. And the moment you forget where you came from, I really think that anchor point really gets messed up, because now the authenticity that you talked about is certain core things cannot change. Okay. My wife is vegetarian, Iyer Brahmin, which means before we go to any restaurants, even a Thai restaurant, she wants to make sure it's not just vegetarian, but you don't eat fish sauce, like to the point where I have become an expert spokesperson for her, which is constant every time. It's her origin. Will anything change in her life if she has fish sauce by mistake? No. But why? It makes her connect to her mom, her great grandma, and beyond. And I really feel that's the part where that origin is very powerful. Sorry to digress, but I now want to go back to what would be the conversation between three generations, Rahul, starting with you. The younger Rahul, Rahul today, and the older Rahul, and of course the three Sahils.
I think the conversation would be, maybe about belief. I think Sahil and I started this whole thing from an idea that we had, and along the way, a lot of people, maybe there were doubters or people who thought that, okay, I don't think this is going to work, or you guys are 24 years old, you've never worked, how are you guys going to start this? And I think we just never took no for an answer, and we continue to like do that. And so I think whenever we hear like, oh, that's not possible, or that's not going to work, it almost motivates us more to kind of figure out our way to put our vision together. And so I think there's some talk about that, but then I think it's really also about the legacy, and like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our fathers who left their home country, came on their own, and really they're the immigrant story. They wanted a better life for their family. They stepped out on their own, and so like we're really standing here on their shoulders. And so I think embracing that kind of story and legacy is really interesting and also important.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a great question. And building on what Rahul was saying, I think when I think about 12-year-old Sahil, I feel like he'd be talking to Sahil today and saying, "Hey, I'm really proud of you." Right? I think he'd look and say, "Wow, I can't believe we pulled this off." Right? When you're a little kid, it's like, what will your future look like? You don't know. It's so funny. I remember when I was 12, I thought 33 was so old. And so I think there's an element of like, wow, this is so cool. This is awesome that this is your life today. And I think the 12-year-old would also say to Sahil of today, it's like cool that you're building a big business and a big brand and all of those things, but remember to play. I think that 12-year-old Sahil would really want to remind Sahil of today to play. And I think the conversation from 33-year-old Sahil to 12-year-old Sahil would say to just really believe in yourself, right? And to know that anything is possible, and to know that you're capable of anything you put your mind to. So that feels like the earlier generation conversation. And then transitioning to the conversation between the 33-year-old Sahil and the 100-year-old Sahil, I think the 100-year-old Sahil would look at the present day version with a lot of love and empathy and say, "Hey, I see you guys are putting the work in, right? I see that you're building a legacy, right? You're building upon that family dream." And I think there's going to be great gratitude. And interestingly, I think the message would also be similar of remember amidst all the busyness to take time for life as well. So I think that'd be kind of the conversation on that side. And looking up, I think the Sahil of today would want to just express a lot of gratitude to the body that's carried him to that point. So that feels like the conversation that would happen from that standpoint.
It's all about play, be who you are, building on that.
Exactly.
So, this was an amazing conversation. Truly appreciate you guys opening up and sharing from your heart. Any questions you have, like, thanks for answering every question. This is only fair. I give you an opportunity. You don't have to ask anything, but if you want, you can ask anything you want.
When's your next trip to DC? So we can dine with you over at RASA.
Oh, absolutely. We'll make it happen. Absolutely. That's the easiest question you could have asked. Like, so yes, both of you, yes, absolutely. Done. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, this has been amazing. The question I have for you actually is, as a man of Indian descent, seeing what we're building, what is your vision for the future? What are your hopes for Indian culture and Indian cuisine as it enters what feels like a clear next phase?
To me, I think there are certain sides of Indian culture which are very different, which are very unique. If you look at most Indian homes have a shrine within the home, which means you don't have to go to a temple every week or every month or anything. And you don't need a priest. For me, my dad, my mom, my grandma were the priests. So there's something very internal about the culture, which again also because India is not one country. India is a lot of small countries all together as a one big country, which means culturally, even within India, we are decently fragmented. Okay. Mm-hmm. So how do you welcome people to this bigger world? Like tomorrow, it's like if you and I, three of us together, try to open an Asian restaurant. Come on, there's nothing called an Asian restaurant. Okay. So as you start going through, to me, I really feel that there has to be a blend on what about India that you're bringing, because at some point people will start getting educated and understand that it's not Indian food. It is this kind of Indian food as you start going through. But the second thing I think what we touched together earlier was making them feel this has a place in their life. The moment this becomes a curiosity, okay, I'll give you an example. Chitra, my wife and myself, we went to this absolutely fascinating museum called the Museum of Illusions. You go there and we have this amazing picture of Chitra trying to run me over with a bicycle. I'm staying there. It was fun. But I can't see myself going back there a second time. Like it would not, like the first time, like some things you can do one time. Some things you can do twice or thrice. I may be able to do it again with my daughter, okay? It's a brilliant brand. But they never saw, after they run out of people in the trade area, what will happen, okay? And that would be the big challenge I would put in front of you is, as you evolve, what about the food cannot change? But how, as we access food, how as we eat food, it could be that there is something beyond delivery. It could very well be that there's a world tomorrow where a food and myself both will start on our journey, and the food will know and predict where I will be exactly at 12:30 because I get hungry at 12:30 and the food will find me exactly at 12:30. Okay? I'm just messing you up because that could be a world. Once that happens, you have to be ready. Second, there could be a world beyond bowls. Okay? Bowls were a great way for us to eat everything together. Okay? The moment we start thinking, what is the next mode? If you resist and hold on to by saying, no, thou shalt always have food in a bowl because I'm telling you so, it really doesn't work. So to me, I really think that you really need to grow with me, but at the same time, hold certain parts of the brand, as you guys talked about, the flavor, the authenticity together, because I really think that would be the part, but bringing Indian food to everybody else's life and to understand as you go to different cities, different places, just like it's not one India, it's not different cities, they are different, people are different, urban US is different from semi-urban to rural. And how your brand allows people to shape the experience becomes mission critical as you go through. But at the core, I really feel that what you guys both have, that pride, the responsibility, and you guys are not trying to make money. You're responsible as brand ambassadors to Indian food. And that's a big deal. And holding each other together responsible for that, I really think that was the core amazing takeaway. I've talked to you guys before, but I don't think you guys took me seriously in previous conversations. But today you shared the brand ambassador. I really appreciate. So I have to do a podcast to learn from Rahul and Sahil. Thank you both. Really appreciate this.
Thank you so much.
And see you at the 100 and the 1,000 locations.
Looking forward to it.
Take care. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to Secrets to Win Big with Arjun Sen, founder and CEO of Zen Mango, top brand growth driver, and a former Fortune 500 executive who has been called one of the most marketing intelligent minds in the business. To learn more, visit www.zenmango.com. Share this podcast with your friends and subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.